Hello, world-class riders. So I know I've been a little bit lax. It's because I've been moving me and my horses to Italy, but we are all finally here, thankfully. So yeah, I'm going to be able to start jumping on and doing some more of these videos a little bit more regularly now that I'm actually here in Italy. So today I am talking about lateral flexion. Now, a lot of you have probably heard of using lateral flexion for the emergency dismount. However, contrary to what other equestrian, YouTube coaches, let's call them, or Facebook coaches, let's call them, are telling you, lateral flexion is not for the emergency dismount, okay? And I'm going to explain why and why we actually use it and how you can go and learn how to correctly do lateral flexion because again, a lot of you are thinking that you have to do it for emergency dismount and that's just not true. So, let's dive into first of all what is lateral flexion? Basically, the simple explanation is bending the horse laterally. Okay. It's sort of allowing them to follow your hand. They can either, come all the way around and maybe touch your boot if you're on them. If you're on the ground next to them, maybe they're sniffing your hand or something. So that is the basic idea or understanding of what is lateral flexion. But now let's talk about why. Why is this important to incorporate it into your riding routine? Now, when I was I've worked for a lot of Olympic and Grand Prix dressage and show jumping riders and trainers. Okay. And this is not something that I saw them doing once in a blue moon. This is an exercise that they were incorporating regularly. I mean, almost every single time that they rode. So why? Why were they doing it? Now, if you guys are joining me, whether you're live with me right now, or maybe you're listening to this later, comment down below. Let me know why you think they were doing this exercise. What do you think it's for? Because it's not for the emergency dismount. So why? Why do we do this exercise? And the reason, I'm just going to go ahead, pause for dramatic effect here. Okay. The real reason that we do lateral flexion. Are you ready? Is so that we can, as riders, check our contact. Okay, let me rephrase that a little bit. We can check our contact with our horse by doing this exercise. So how? Why? Why would we need to check our contact? Okay, and the reason is a lot of riders, and I'll give kind of two scenarios here. Scenario A is, let's say you're right-handed. Okay, so you subconsciously, when you're riding, because you're stronger with your right hand, you are subconsciously always applying slightly more pressure to the right side of your body, which means that your horse is always feeling slightly more pressure on their right side and they are resisting it, or maybe they're growing their muscles more stronger on that side because they're constantly getting subconsciously kind of worked more on the right because you're right-handed than they would normally in the field where they're on their own. So that's scenario A. Scenario B, maybe your horse is right-handed or right-footed, okay? So they by themselves prefer the right hand. So they pick up the right lead easier. If they're, cantering around in a field on a straight line, they're always going to go on that right lead or whatever. So maybe they are stronger on the right side because horses are also right or left-handed. So they favor that side, therefore that side gets more exercise. It's a little bit more overdeveloped. It's a little bit having more tension. Okay, so they lost a little bit of their flexibility because they've built up that muscles a bit more. So those are the two different scenarios. And I know that the lighting is a little bit odd. It's a weird time of day here. But those are the two different scenarios. So why would you need to check your contact? Well, in scenario A, you as the rider are always subconsciously using one hand more than the other. Now, again, this is subconscious. I want to stress that because it's not that you're aware. If I was to squeeze something, there's some kind of thing, sorry, I don't know what it is, but where you squeeze it and it kind of tells you the number of the pressure. Okay, so if I squeeze my right hand and my left hand, what I think is the exact same amount, because my right arm is stronger because I use it more, I'm probably squeezing this one more than I am this one just by default. Okay, so it's the same when I'm going to check the contact with my horse. When I bend them to the right and I do this lateral flexion, I might be pulling more on that side. So maybe, and this is again scenario A, maybe I bend them to the right with lateral flexion and they're heavy in my hands. They feel heavy. There's some resistance. They're hanging on me. Maybe when I bend them to the left, they feel very light. They feel very soft in my hand. Okay, so and then scenario A and scenario B can have the same results. Okay, now the horses are going to try and do different things. Some of them might try and spin or walk in circles. As riders, if you don't really know how to do this exercise correctly, or you thought that you had to do this for emergency dismount, which please don't. Okay, in my 20 plus years, I've been coaching thousands of students in over five continents. I've never, ever, 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 ever myself done an emergency dismount or had a student do an emergency dismount ever. And I've ridden a lot of horses. In Mongolia, I rode 1,000 kilometers across Mongolian steppes on semi-wild Mongolian ponies. Never did an emergency dismount. And you're not going to, because guess what? These are semi-wild horses. If you dismount, okay, if they're bolting with you, if I use lateral flexion to stop them and I dismount, I'm not going to get back on. Okay, they're semi-wild. They don't need me. So you're not going to dismount. You could, in theory, use it in an emergency situation. That's not what this video is about. But again, I've never had to do an emergency dismount, nor have any of my thousands of students. So this is not about emergency dismounting. Okay? I don't do that. I think the better solution is to learn how to get a sticky butt. That's what I personally think. Learn how to get a sticky butt and learn how to have a connection with your horse that they never put you in a situation where you need to emergency dismount. That's what I think. So, Hello, everyone. Technical difficulties here with the internet kicked me out. Can't do anything about that. So I'm just gonna say a little bit. I'm just kind of checking to see that everything's okay. Yeah. So as I was saying before the whole interruption, um, sorry about that, you guys. That's the downside about coming live. Good side is you guys can comment and I can answer your questions in real time, which is always fun. Just the downside. So, lateral flexion. I was saying with the contact, you can check your contact of whether or not the horse is heavy or light in your hands. And are they heavy or light equally on both sides? So, again, in that scenario A and scenario B, where maybe the rider is stronger on one hand or the other, or scenario B, the horse is stronger in one hand or the other. In both scenarios, there is probably more likely going to be a side which is slightly heavier or having some resistance versus the other side. And the thing is, how I mentioned that Olympic riders, Olympic trainers, show jumping, dressage, Grand Prix level, like it doesn't matter. They do this exercise regularly in their normal riding routines. I'm having all kinds of weird pop-ups come up now, so just ignoring that. They do this regularly in their riding routine because every day is different. Okay, just because you've done it one day doesn't mean that your horse is just going to do it forever. That is why there's a warm up at a horse show. Okay, your horse might have jumped Grand Prix meter 65 courses for 5 years, but guess what? There's still warm up for a reason. Because just because you've done it once, even if you did it yesterday, it doesn't mean that it's going to apply magically today. So that's why we do this exercise pretty much every day, or maybe even every day. Maybe every time you ride, you spend 5 minutes doing this exercise, or maybe before you get on, you do it on the ground. And resistance. And is it me, or is it my horse, or is it both of us? Now, if it's you, if it's the horse, if it's both of you, doesn't matter. It just means that you need to work on it and practice it and to improve it and to make it better. Okay, so that is the lateral flexion, is to check our contact. Is it actually correct? Is there some resistance? Is it heavy on one side or the other? It should feel light and soft in your hands. Okay, it's not about pulling the horse and dragging them around. It's not about the horse being so light that there's a loop in the reins, that they're not actually having connection with you, because that is also a form of resistance. Okay, that means that they're also avoiding your hands, your contact, but in a different way. Okay, that's why we're doing this exercise. Now, how? How can you correctly do the lateral flexion? Well, I actually just added to our guided audio riding lessons this very lesson, okay? How to do lateral flexion with your horse. And in that lesson, in that audio lesson, I really go step by step into exactly what you need to do to troubleshoot. Like I said, if your horse is heavy on one side, or maybe both sides, okay, how do you troubleshoot that? How do you improve it? But then also, what do you do if your horse tries to walk and spin in circles, or they're not understanding to do it from a standstill, or maybe you're at that level where you can already really easily do it from a standstill. Now you need to do it while walking to a lesser degree, but you're at that next stage. Okay, so what do you do in that case? So if you haven't already, go and download the guided audio riding lesson, the lateral flexion exercise, and then do that with your horse. And more importantly, when you've done that exercise, make sure you head over to our Facebook group, the International Equestrian, and then comment your results. Comment what happened. It's really important that we have a discussion around this, okay? Because we need to figure out, in scenario A, it's the rider, in scenario B, it's the horse, and in scenario C, it's both of you guys. We need to figure out how. Okay, how do we troubleshoot? How do we, if it is because you're right-handed and you just subconsciously use your right hand more, how do we fix that? Because you're always going to be right-handed, right? But there is a solution, there is a fix. Don't worry about that. But go and do this audio lesson. That way you get the step-by-step. And then once you've tried it out for yourself and you now know which side is heavier or which side is lighter, from there, we can start to tweak it and improve it. And it will be that much quicker and easier. Maybe the first time you do this lesson, okay, lateral flexion. The first time you do it, if the horse has never done it before, maybe you're doing it on the ground. The horse has never done this before. You might spend 10 minutes. They might be totally confused. They have no idea what this new game is. Okay, you might spend 10 minutes doing it. In the future, okay, you might whittle it down that you literally just do it once on each side. You check those buttons again, that kind of warm up feeling. You check the buttons. Okay, it's kind of like a pilot checking all of the switches and all of the things, all of the lights and things before flying off. Okay, we're checking those buttons. Is it working today? Yes, it's working. It's even on both sides. Ooh, today my mare feels a little bit heavier on this side. We don't need to know why. Okay, maybe she's just a little bit heavier on this side today. Maybe the work I did with her yesterday, I accidentally did a little bit more on this side than the other side. Maybe she's stiffer on this side. Okay, maybe I need to loosen her up, but then I can plan the rest of my session accordingly. I can say, oh, okay, she's a little bit stiffer on the right side today. Let's do some leg yields. Let's do some leg yields on a circle. Let's do some lateral work and get her a little bit more supple, a little bit more flexible. And then I'm going to move on to my main session. Okay, so Kathy says, thanks for this. So thank you so much for joining me. If you are joining me live, again, do the lesson, do the lateral flexion lesson from our guided audios, and then come back and comment your results. Share in the Facebook group, make a post, share in the group. I can't help you if you don't post, if you don't share what's your results. So thank you so much, Kathy, for joining, and everyone else who's joined live. I know we had some technical difficulties. I kind of disappeared for a little bit. If you are joining the replay, go in and watch from the beginning, and hopefully, skip out the bit where I disappeared. So thank you guys so much for joining me, and please let me know any questions that you might have. You can reach out to me in the Facebook group or via email. I love hearing from you guys. I love hearing your questions, your challenges, your victories, your results, like anything and everything. I love to hear from you. So thank you so much, and I will see you guys next week, now that I can start doing these videos a little bit more frequently, now that I'm here in Italy finally with my horses. So that's it for today, and happy trails.